Curse Gear is officially preparing for full release with maintenance in 5 days, and right now I can't get new clips because the game is closed. Yay, thanks devs. Anyway, in today's video I want to go over everything I don't like and whether or not I think Curse Gear is actually ready for release through categories like gameplay, PvP, PvE, and aesthetics. Check out my live channel where I post variety content, and before we get into it, this recording might be a little bit weird and I won't be live streaming today because as I'm posting this video, right, they're painting over my office, which means I'm recording this video in a different place. You guys like ASMR Reaconteur? Either way, yes, I'm recording this video in a different place right now, so I might actually sound a little bit different because this might be a little bit echoey for a setup. Anyway, let's get straight into it. I promise I'll be streaming this Wednesday. Alright, first of all, I want to talk about my absolute least favorite part of the game first, which is going to be the aesthetics in the buildings. There's 3 problems I have with it. First of all is the inconsistency, which is kind of all 3 of the problems in one now that I think about it. Inconsistency in build quality, inconsistency in aesthetics that doesn't really blend well. Like, there's ways to make inconsistent aesthetics blend well, and they just didn't really do it here. And then inconsistency in size, which is kind of part of the aesthetics, but you get what I mean. First of all is quality. The worst map in the entire game is easily the school, like, campus main building for what's basically just Jujutsu High. The school is kind of just a weird mix of Roblox Union building and then meshes that don't blend very well together, and honestly that single map feels like a bunch of different pieces from the Roblox toolbox just added together. It feels kind of incoherent and the build quality is weird, and I just really don't like it. It feels kind of like a game in testing, if that makes sense. Then, as you get to the actual maps, to the expeditions, and you continue through these expeditions, the maps get increasingly better, and you can tell that most of them were probably made at a completely different time, with maps like Neo Shibuya being kind of boring, but you know, that's kind of just like, it serves as a main hub for the other maps anyway. And then we have presumably the Nier-inspired post-apocalyptic desert maps, which are way better in build quality and have better build proportions than most of the other maps. Like, if you look at Neo Shibuya, for example, it has that old Roblox quality where everything is super big and seems like, proportionally, you live in kind of like a giant city, right? Because nothing is properly proportioned for your Roblox character, which is a reminder of like old Roblox aesthetic, but that doesn't really mean that I like it. And I know it's a different dev team, but given how well proportioned deepwoken structures are, I expected it to be a bit more aesthetically pleasing in Cursed Gear. But also they clearly just didn't have the same builders making these maps at the same time. So while you venture through the game's various diverse environments and maps, you can clearly see a difference in quality through the various zones. Although the best ones, like the PMC bases for example, are very nice, which by the way, the entire PMC base is literally just the mother base from Metal Gear Solid 5. I'm gonna put up a picture of the mother base on the screen. You don't even need to see it in game, because once you see it and you see this, you'll know exactly what it is. It's literally the same thing. Now, another thing I don't like is actually the usage of Roblox chat. This is kind of a non-issue because I'm sure they'll do something about it, right? Like when the game releases. But NPCs in this game talk to you, and you can respond to their prompts openly using the in-game Roblox chat. This is kind of cool because you can respond openly and they like take in a variety of responses. But first of all, this is a system that requires you to have Roblox chat, which given the new changes isn't always possible, because if you are under the age of 17 on Roblox, you no longer have chat. However, I do expect them to change this before the release window of the game, or at least for people who are aged under 17. Because, you know, it's just like, that's such a weird problem that gives a disadvantage to people who are now unable to interact with NPCs because they can't use the Roblox chat. And also, the answer to the green crystal's riddle is machine. It's a machine. If a green crystal gives you a riddle, the answer is a machine. Go ahead and remember that for free loot caches in a full heal zone. I'm sure the devs might actually change that now that I said that, because they said no guides, but you know, it's funny. Anyway, other than that being a potential problem which will likely get settled, one big thing to remember about this game is that this is not a Jujutsu Kaisen game. It is a game inspired by Jujutsu Kaisen and Nier Auto whatever the fuck. This video is still PG-13, meaning it takes nothing directly from both games or sources of media within late game modifiers and curse techniques to my knowledge. Now, this is a good thing or a bad thing depending on the way you look at it. The good thing about it is, it's a little bit more original, it's a little bit less like the same stuff on Roblox we've seen through other games like Sorcery and stuff like that. But it's also kind of a bad thing, because if you're coming in for like pure Jujutsu Kaisen, you're a huge JJK fan, well, that's kind of bad for you, right? So it takes nothing from both directly. So while there are techniques that have moves similar to stuff like Limitless and Function, throughout this game, 70 to 90 curse techniques, there are none taken directly from Jujutsu Kaisen. Now, with that being said, the curse technique Speed Bash is the most like Gojo's Limitless from Jujutsu Kaisen, so if you want to play something like Gojo, then I'd say get Speed Bash. Anyway, as far as progression goes, what do I not like? Honestly, it's really just some of the PvE encounters. Like, if you're unlucky, you can run into bosses on your expeditions regardless of your power level and just get one shot by an orbital laser. Not joking. Happened to me and my friend when we were like level 5. Along with that, some of the normal enemies are just made from bullshit. Like, I don't even know how to explain it, but the curse birds, for for example, which look like Mudskipper Brutes or Broodlords by the way, have terrible hitboxes and sometimes will grab and insta-kill you from like 15 feet away, which I mentioned in my initial Cursed Gear video. But also, all the other enemies are so weak that starting out you'll be 1 or 2-shotting them depending on your gear and class chosen. But then some of the enemies are just really annoying, like there's these little robots that have tiny hitboxes that shoot out balls of lightning and spam stuns at you, and it was really funny because my friend, like, he got infinite comboed for like, I don't know, maybe 15 seconds straight by 4 of them, which it was really funny. But that sounds so miserably annoying, and I'm happy it didn't happen to me. Now, along with playing the game and progressing, solo progression early on is actually quite miserable, since every time you move to a new zone during your expedition, you gain exhaustion and you do not heal. Meaning the longer your expedition, the slower your stamina comebacks, the slower you run, the slower your cursed energy output, and on top of this, you rarely get full heals except on certain maps where you can find them as extras along with food that you can pay for. But if you don't have the money, which I mean you should have the money, it's pretty easy to get money, well then you can't heal. Also, on certain pre-expedition prompts, sometimes it'll make you or one of your allies get debuffs as just like a random D&D style encounter. And you know, normally you can like switch these out between people. And could you guess, if you're a solo player, right? What do you guys think happens instead of being able to, I don't know, share these, pass these on to other people, or maybe like take some of the debuffs for like some people so that way everyone's kind of, you know, mildly fatigued instead of super fatigued? Well, guess what? You take on all of it, so you get full fatigue. It's so cool. Getting out of a solo expedition and completing most of the objectives early on is basically impossible. Best case, you get as many loot caches as possible and run straight to your extraction zone, saving your health and energy for that, because you always need to fight pre-extraction, but also you also need to extract to keep anything that you get during your expedition. You don't get money, you don't get experience. Well, you get a little bit of experience, but not nearly as much. And it's just not that good. Now, if you're unlucky, you get an early game random event like Super Evil Curse spawns, which sometimes like super weird curse things will spawn, and depending on which map you're on, you might just spawn right next to them, like next to a little village or something, or bosses will just tear you up for breathing too close to them. And speaking of evil curse spawns, on multiple occasions, I have spawned in to getting my ass beat because the curse spawns in and then it loads in, right? And then my character spawns in and then it loads in before I'm even off the loading screen. So please fix that, devs. Also, one last thing about the progression. You know how I said that as an early game player, you'd have to get to the extraction zone early, or like you'd have to go there sooner? Well, good luck finding it. The map is actually really linear once you know where to go, and I actually like the map and how it kind of, you have to like go through multiple zones to reach your final extraction zone. I think it's actually a pretty good mechanic. But if you don't know the map, you will absolutely not know where your extraction zone is, and you will struggle finding it for like half an hour, like I did 6 times in a row before learning where to go and finally beating my first expedition, which took about 24 minutes with 2 other people. Now I can full clear an expedition with 1 other person in like 10 to 15 minutes depending on the tasks we get in the extraction zone. I'm sure I could clear it consistently in like 8 with a full party though. Anyway, another part of the progression that kind of sucks is getting the curse technique you want. Getting a curse technique you want, that's the key word, right? Remember how I said some of you guys might like Speed Bash? Good luck getting it. To get a curse technique, you need to find 3 curse technique shards through just random caches, because they spawn randomly, and craft it into a curse technique orb. But you need to get 3 shards of the same curse technique when there's like almost 90 in this game. So good luck doing all that. But guess what? You won't really be using your curse technique for more than 30 seconds in PvP anyway. The meta right now is actually just spamming stat points into curse energy output, which output disrupts cursed energy and techniques, meaning your curse technique bar gets 1 to 2 shot if you get hit early in the fight and you're unable to land hits first, which is my biggest problem with the PvP right now, because the fights start to have like OG fighting game RPS, which if you don't know what that is, it's RPS, which is rock, paper, scissors. A term used in fighting games like Street Fighter, Guilty Gear, etc., where you guys input moves as soon as the round starts, and whoever had the better option or predicted the enemy option will likely benefit more by getting a free combo at the start. So whatever you do, you just really don't want to get hit first in PvP right now, because most of people are running output, and once that happens, you're at an immediate major disadvantage. This is definitely a small issue though, since it's a balancing issue and it's something they can easily work towards, and I think it'll get adjusted in time for release or nerfed soon after. Now, you know, I'm sure they'll do something about it, right? Now, along with that, the class system is a little bit weird. It's not bad, but I just kind of want to talk about this. You choose your class. I'm Executioner, but I think Interceptor is probably the best one right now, at least that's what I've heard. And then you can switch out certain class moves with augmented ones that you'll find in loot caches in game. So every class I think has at least 2 full movesets you can mix and match with. And one thing I also don't like is that limb loss is broken. Since you're technically a cyborg, limb loss isn't too massive. It doesn't matter too much, right? Like, it's not super permanent. You get new limbs after expeditions, but I can't notice any noticeable debuffs or animation changes caused by losing arms or legs in battle. It doesn't really change much, at least not that you can see, so I wish they would have some more visual indicators for that. But going to a doctor can heal your injuries for some money, so I guess it might do something. Now, as far as release status, I don't know, honestly. This game was called a side project in the same way Deepwoken was, but I think it should be treated as more of one than Deepwoken. Deepwoken, for example, started out as a CC side project, but then they decided to put more time, effort, and money into it, and then they sold it and made it an actual game. The way I see it, Deepwoken went from side focus to main focus, but this game didn't, and you should treat it like that. I don't see how they're going to release the game in like 2 weeks. It's fun, but it's not like, it doesn't feel nearly as complete as Monad's other projects. Not even actually in 2 weeks, right? Because it's set for maintenance in 4 days from when you guys are seeing this video, and it's going to release as early as 5 days from then. So, I mean, I don't know, man. I see it as like being an actual side project Rag made for fun, but this game is not on the same tier as Deepwoken was on release as far as progression and content goes. In this game, you get your technique, and then you keep doing expeditions till you can figure out how to get like domain and reverse curse technique and other stuff, and all the other Nier Automata stuff, I guess. Which, I mean, Reaconteur said most people wouldn't touch domains due to the progression difficulty, so we'll see about that for now. But unless they've been gatekeeping new stuff in the dev test server, I don't think the game is that fine for like a paid release, which it's a free release, which is good, and I think it's fine for a free release, but it definitely wouldn't be the type of game I would say you should pay for, if that makes sense. I think it's better than a majority of that slop on Roblox, but it kind of does come off in the same way that Sorcery does, except, you know, this game is free and not an exit scam. But then again, there's a lot I haven't seen since I'm basically grade 3 and I can't make the exam timings because they're usually like early morning, so who knows. I'm sure there's more stuff I haven't seen, but we will see in much due time. My biggest problem is really just map aesthetics, and I just hope they redo some of the older maps, because I feel like if they redid some of the maps that feel like incoherent or incomplete, it would make the game on its own just a lot better. Anyway, leave your thoughts in the comment section down below so I can see what you guys think. Subscribe, buy a YouTube membership to hear my song covers, new one this month soon. And shout out to members of tier 2 or higher: Brick, Philip, Delusional Mo, Elstern, Broccoli, Carlia the Witch, Akio Sugi Kuni, Burger, which by the way, people in the comments keep saying, Burger, does it come with fries? Is this a dumb new Project Moon reference? Because I keep seeing people with Project Moon profile pictures leaving that comment. Someone let me know if it is down below. Anyway, yes, Burger, my tier 2 member, IXKMB, High Card, Fun Guns, Goobka, and Drizzy Drake fan. I love you all as usual. Have an amazing day. Go check out my live channel for all of my variety content stuff. I think I have a lot more fun over there. Five Nights at Freddy's video this Saturday where I played every Five Nights at Freddy's game. I'm pretty much done editing that video, but I always upload on Saturdays, so it'll be going up then. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed, and goodbye.